Hi, this is Rebecca Mueller, Director of Enrollment at Holy Family Catholic Schools, here with Katie Tracy, our tuition coordinator. And we know these are uncertain times, and with the current health climate, we had to unfortunately cancel our tuition assistance help nights. So we thought we'd try a virtual tuition assistance help video. Before we get started, I do just want to remind everyone that the application deadline is approaching fast. April 15th is the application deadline, and we encourage everyone to get their applications in as soon as possible to meet that deadline. Even though schools are closed, Katie and I are still working. We're still available to help with questions and to help you file your tuition assistance. So please reach out if you need anything, and we'll give you our contact information at the end. But yeah, Katie, do you want to get started and show everyone how to submit the fax application?
Absolutely. So to apply for any type of tuition assistance, you do need to complete a fax application, and we're going to walk through that today. But even if you live in Illinois or Wisconsin, or you make more than the income guidelines for STO, we still encourage you to apply if you need tuition assistance. The tax filing deadline was extended to July 15th for this year. The April 15th deadline is still the fax deadline. So we encourage families to apply now. There is going to be a second round of July 15th, but we want to make sure we get as many applications in now as possible. So we will go ahead and start looking at how to find the fax application and then how to actually complete the application. So let me get this first screen up here. To find the fax application, you can go to our website at holyfamilydbq.org. And if you go to admissions and then tuition assistance, you can find information about all types of tuition assistance that we offer and the steps on how everything goes. But like Rebecca said, everything starts with a fax application. So right here, it's going to take us to the website. So for anybody that applied for fax previously, you're going to sign in. So if you click the green button, it will ask you to enter your username or email. And I always encourage parents to log in using the email address they used last year, and then the password. If you don't remember your password you set up last year, you can click on the Forgot Username Password link, and Fax will email you to reset your password. So this is for anybody that's applied previously for fax. For any new families, you are going to click the gray box that says Create an Account. Here is where you'll put your email address. If you don't have an email address, you can click the blue link at the bottom. However, fax will snail mail you any notifications. So it will take a lot longer to get your application complete if you don't have an email. So once you actually get logged into fax, you're going to come up with the application, and this is page 1, which is schools. Now, if you're new, you will need to click on the plus sign that says Add School, and the easiest way is to put our zip code in, which is 52001. So here you're going to enter in every school that you're applying for. So if you have a kid at Wahlert, one at Mazzucchelli, and one in elementary, you're going to add all 3 of those schools.
And Katie, it's important to point out too to our families that may be considering Holy Family but haven't yet made their decision that they can still apply for tuition assistance. You don't need to be officially enrolled or registered to file for tuition assistance. So one thing I like to tell families is go ahead and complete the application so you kind of have an idea of what your total tuition bill would be if you would enroll. And another thing to note is if you are undecided between the elementary schools, that you can just choose one, and if you decide that, well, the other school is a better fit, those funds will follow you to the other Holy Family elementary school. So you don't need to be definitive on the elementary school, as the aid will follow wherever you go.
Perfect. Thanks, Rebecca. Those are great points. The next page is going to be the applicant screen. So this is all your information. Anything with the red asterisk is required. And I'm just going to point a few things out at the bottom. It asks for social security number. Now, if you don't have a social security number, you can still apply for fax. You will just need a unique 9-digit number. So some parents use their phone number minus their last digit, but it is not, you do not need a social security number to apply for financial aid. Another couple of things to point out is we have a lot of families that are divorced or separated or never married. It's important that whoever is responsible for tuition completes a fax application, and it's going to be for your portion of tuition. So if you pay 50% and your ex pays 50%, you're each going to complete your own fax application with just your information on it. And there's a question here that asks, what percentage of tuition are you responsible for? So you're going to select whatever percentage that is. If you're married and paying tuition together, it's going to be 100%. But if for anyone who's separated, divorced, you're going to click whether it be 100%, 50%, whatever your divorce decree says. Another question on here is, please select your parish. Tuition is charged based on if you belong to one of our Catholic supporting parishes. And also something else we use this information for is parishes sometimes have tuition assistance available. So if you need additional help, we know exactly what parish to send your application to. And then the last question, are you a resident of Iowa? This just tells us what bucket of funds your award's going to be from. So if you live in Iowa, it's going to be from STO. If you're Iowa or Wisconsin, Illinois, it's going to be Holy Family Funds.
Yeah, that's an important call out, Katie, because I know a lot of our families that come to us from Illinois and Wisconsin might at first tell me, well, I'm not going to apply for tuition assistance because I won't qualify for STO, which is true, but you have to start at the fax application, which calculates a need, and then the calculation is then filled with a different bucket, like you said, not necessarily STO, but whatever you would have gotten through STO if you would have lived in Iowa would be filled through a local family, Holy Family funds.
Perfect. All right, so the next screen is going to be co-applicant. It's pretty straightforward. You're just going to enter in the co-applicant's information. And
you would not need to complete this if you were a single parent, correct?
You're correct. So it's going to be based on the marital status question that you answer. So if you're married, it's going to automatically ask for co-applicant. If you put single, divorced, they won't even ask you this. And something else I forgot to mention, if you see a little blue question mark, you can click on that and it will give you additional information. So some questions have that. All right, the next page is going to be students. So here is going to be where you add all of your K through 12 students. So anybody you're applying for tuition assistance for. You're going to click on the gray box and it will open up more questions for your student. It's going to ask for next year's school and grade level. And this particular question always throws parents off. It says, how much of this child's tuition can you and or the co-applicant pay? This is a required question, but it is not taken into consideration for your award. So it's more an FYI to the schools. So if you can only pay $100 towards tuition or $2,000, whatever you can afford in tuition for each student is what you're going to put in there. And then this bottom question is kind of ties back to what we already talked about. Do you share tuition responsibility for the student with an individual not included on this application? Again, each person has to complete a fax application for their portion of tuition.
And one thing to point out too, Katie, that I always tell our new families, they might think, well, I'm for sure sending my sixth grader to Mazzucchelli, but I don't know about my third grader. I would encourage you to include information for every student that you might possibly think might be enrolled in the fall. It is much easier to add students the first time and return aid if you ultimately decide that they won't enroll, rather than trying to add them later, because there's going to be less funds available to give. So if you are filling this out and you're still not quite sure, include the students that you're even considering sending to Holy Family. That way you have a better idea financially of what aid will be available to each student, even if they ultimately decide not to go.
Perfect. And like Rebecca said, if you do apply for a student and they end up not coming, those funds are returned so another family can use them. So there's no harm in having them on there just in case.
Yep.
All right, the next page, it is an additional question. This just is an acknowledgement that you have to check for each student, which basically says pre-K students are not eligible to receive financial aid. So tuition assistance is only for K through 12 students. So all you have to do is click the checkbox and you can go to the next page. Now this next one is taxable income. It's going to ask how many adults and children are living in the household, if you receive income reported on a W-2, and then it asks, do you file a U.S. federal tax return? If you put no, you can still apply. It'll ask for the reason why. If you answer yes, it's going to ask, what is your adjusted gross income from the most recent tax return? So if you filed for 2019, it is going to be that line that says adjusted gross income. That's the dollar amount you need to put here. Now, if you have not yet filed for 2019, just do your best guess and put on here what you made in 2019. If it's off a little bit, that's no problem, because when you do upload your tax return, Fax is going to use that information as opposed to this answer. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. And then it's going to ask, do you own any of the following? Business, rental property, partnership, farm, S-corp, or estates and trusts. So the next screen is any non-taxable income. So you're just going to select any and all that apply. And if you click on one, it's going to ask you to enter the amount and frequency. So you can put the weekly amount, monthly, yearly, whatever is easiest. We don't need documentation for this. We just need the dollar amount. And it's important to say too that all this information is confidential. So you don't have to worry about putting personal information on here. Change of income. Do you anticipate a decrease in your annual income for 2020? And this is as opposed to 2019. So if you think you'll make the same or more, you can go ahead and select no and go to the next screen. If you do anticipate a decrease in income, it's going to ask you to put your anticipated 2020 income and then the reasons why. You can select multiple answers, and if nothing fits, you can click other and then type in a description.
And this is really important, Katie, especially now with the current economic climate. And we know that families aren't sure what 2020 is going to look like with everything that's going on. So, make your best estimate about what that change in income would be, because we're willing to work with families. We know it's hard, so just make your best estimate, and we'll work with you on the tuition assistance side.
Absolutely. And it's also important to say that Fax does use 2019 income for consideration. However, that might not be the case. You might not make the income you made last year. So if you don't qualify for STO or you don't receive enough, that's when you'll apply for reconsideration. So please keep in mind that there is more help available. The next page is monthly expenses. Now, anything with a red asterisk is required. So if it doesn't apply to you, just put 0. So if you don't have a home equity loan, go ahead and put 0. It won't let you go to the next screen unless everything has an answer. It's going to ask you to add all vehicles you own or lease and what that monthly payment is. If it's paid off, go ahead and put 0 for the monthly payment. And then everything else is pretty straightforward. Now, annual expenses. This question I want to point out, total annual out-of-pocket medical expenses not paid by insurance. This can include co-pays, deductibles, dental, orthodontist, optical, prescriptions. I mean, there's so much you can include in this question that a lot of people don't think about. Charitable contributions in cash per year. If anybody is going to be attending college, how much are you helping with that? So you don't necessarily put the full tuition amount for college, but the portion you're paying. Child and daycare expenses, it's going to ask how many and then how much you anticipate in paying, and then elder care expenses. And this last question, if you listed a pre-K student, it's going to ask to enter the annual tuition amount. Now for Iowa, it's the free 4-year-old pre-K. So if you live in Iowa, it would be 0. But if you do pay, go ahead and put that amount there. Assets and liabilities. Everything is required. So if you don't have it, go ahead and put 0. Now a 529 plan, that is a college savings account. It's a way to set aside pre-tax money to pay for your students' college. A couple years ago, it was approved that you can now pay K through 12 tuition with a 529. So if you have questions on that, please let your tax advisor know about it, or you can also contact me and I can give you some general information. And then additional questions. This is not a required question, but it's a place you can help explain anything in your application. If you have a special circumstance, or you're going through a divorce, or you were laid off due to COVID-19, anything you need to explain, this is the spot to put it. And then the last screen is the review section. This is a chance to double check all of your answers before you actually submit. So just look them over, make sure it looks okay. And I always have parents check this box that says, email me when the application for next school year opens up. So then you get a reminder every year from Fax. So if everything looks good, you can go to the submit page. You can pay the $31 application fee with a debit or credit card or your bank information. So once you enter all that in, you're going to click submit, and then it will come back saying your application's incomplete. Everybody's is incomplete at first, so don't worry about that. It's going to ask you to then upload your 2019 federal tax return. There's a couple ways to upload this. If you have an electronic copy of the tax return, you can upload that version. You can take a photo of each page of your federal tax return with your cell phone and upload it directly to Fax by that. Or you can bring your actual paper tax return to the Holy Family Central office. We have a locked drop box right outside of our door right now. So you can drop it off. We will scan it and upload it for you and mail the originals back. So that's the Dropbox is only open during our normal business hours, so Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. And so you are going to be getting a couple emails from Fax along the way. The first one is to let you know that your application has been received. After you upload your documents, they're going to let you know that they received them, and it can take up to 2 weeks for Fax to review. And then they're going to email you if they need anything else or to let you know it's complete. So as long as your application is complete by April 15th, you will receive an award notification from Holy Family in May, letting you know that you have qualified and how much. If you need more help, you can then apply for reconsideration, which is funds through Holy Family and your parish.
Okay.
All right.
Do we have any other things that we need to discuss before we stop our first ever tuition assistance virtual help video, Katie?
I do want to mention that fax can be done on a computer, a tablet, a laptop, or a cell phone. So I've had a lot of families do it right on their cell phone. Like I said, you can take photos of each page of your tax return and do it that way. So you don't need a computer. It's just really important that you apply now for fax, even if you don't have your taxes done yet. Submit that application, that step's out of the way, and once you get your taxes, then you can upload them.
And we at Holy Family understand that there's so many different things going on right now, let alone in just regular everyday life, but now everything's kind of just very challenging. We're here to work with families, but again, this fax application is the first step, and that's where every family starts. It kind of puts everybody on an equal playing field. So I'd really encourage everyone to try and get their applications in by April 15th with their tax returns. But we will be here. I'll include our contact information here at the end of the video. But we're still working and we're still here to help families. So if you need anything, feel free to give Katie, Tracy, or myself, Rebecca Mueller, a call. And with that, we will sign off.
Thank you.